This story began 20 years ago when an alien spaceship the size of a city suddenly stopped directly above Johannesburg, South Africa. This incident caused global panic. For 3 months, the people of the city lived in fear. But strangely, no alien came out of the ship, and no movement was seen inside. After much discussion, the government decided to take action. They sent a team to investigate the ship. The team cut open a portion of the spacecraft and went inside. What they found shocked the entire world. Inside a massive room, there were more than 1 million aliens who looked like human-sized prawns. But they were weak and malnourished from hunger and thirst. Seeing their helplessness, humans felt pity for them, and the government decided to help. A temporary camp was set up on a large piece of land directly beneath the ship, and the aliens were airlifted there by helicopters. They were provided with food and water. However, the government never thought about what would happen to them next. As time passed, the aliens began settling in the area. Gradually, they built slums and started increasing in number. Eventually, the place turned into a large alien colony known as District 9. The government handed over the responsibility of managing the aliens to the Multinational United, MNU, the world's largest arms manufacturing company. The MNU was tasked with keeping the aliens away from humans. They fenced off the colony and stationed military forces outside to monitor them. But one big question remained. Why had the aliens come to Earth? Did they come seeking help? Or were they planning to take over the planet and establish their dominance? It was hard to say, because all the aliens found on Earth at that time were mentally impaired and lacked the ability to think or make decisions. Experts believed this meant the aliens were just workers, and their leaders, who had brought them to Earth, had already died from starvation. However, some experts thought it could be a trick by the aliens. When the spaceship arrived, a large piece of it had fallen off. They suspected it was the ship's command module, the part used to control the vessel. But after falling, it disappeared, and no one has ever found it since. Meanwhile, MNU recovered many weapons from the aliens. Possessing weapons was illegal for them, and those caught with any were arrested. No matter how much they ate, they were always hungry and constantly looking for food. They often entered the city, scavenging through garbage, eating shoes, even car tires, and creating chaos. Sometimes they set cars on fire. Other times, they derailed trains. Things got worse when the aliens started stealing money and items like mobile phones from people. After tolerating the aliens for 20 years, the public finally demanded that the government remove them from the city. In response, the MNU took a major decision. They built a new camp for the aliens in a deserted area 200 kilometers from Johannesburg and decided to relocate them there. But moving around 1.8 million aliens from their homes to another place was a huge challenge. The MNU chief appointed Wikus as the commanding officer of this relocation mission. Wikus was not only an employee, but also the chief's son-in-law. He worked as an alien affairs officer at MNU, responsible for communicating with the aliens on behalf of humans. Over time, he had learned their language well, and this mission was expected to be a big step forward in his career. Wikus entered District 9 with heavily armed MNU security forces. His task was to serve eviction notices to the aliens 24 hours before their relocation. He had to go door to door, collecting their signatures on the documents. Meanwhile, a cameraman was recording the entire operation while chaos unfolded inside the settlement. The hungry aliens were extremely violent. They would kill animals on sight and even eat their bones. As Wikus got out of the vehicle with the security forces, the aliens went wild. They ran and hid inside their huts. At that moment, one alien began chewing a security vehicle's tire like chewing gum. When a soldier approached him with a gun to stop him, the alien kicked the soldier so hard that his arm was torn off. Despite the violence, Wikus stayed calm. He knew about the aliens' behavior and their obsession with cat food. Using that to his advantage, he calmly lured them with cat food and collected their paw prints on the documents. However, he had to stay alert, not just from the aliens, but from criminals as well. Since the government rarely interfered in District 9, the place had become a safe haven for crime. A dangerous Nigerian gangster named Obasanjo controlled a gang there. In exchange for alien valuables, Obasanjo's gang supplied cat food, meat, alcohol, and even women for entertainment. Because of this, many aliens began stealing human money and belongings so they could buy food for themselves. The aliens loved cat food so much that they even traded their weapons with Obasanjo for it. They once gave him one of their advanced robotic suits in exchange for just 100 packets of cat food. The aliens' weapons were extremely dangerous, powerful enough to crush a human like a tomato with a single shot. However, so far, Those weapons were useless to Obasanjo because their technology was so advanced that they could only be activated by alien DNA. This meant only aliens or any being carrying alien DNA could use them. Obasanjo was a strong believer in witchcraft. He believed that by eating alien meat, he could gain their powers and eventually operate their weapons. So, every day, he ate raw alien flesh. Despite being disabled, Obasanjo was so terrifying that even Wikus avoided looking him in the eyes and quickly left his area. Soon after, Wikus came across another alien hut. When he opened the door, he saw numerous alien eggs hatching inside. The aliens had hung pieces of animal meat around the eggs and connected them with pipes, which were supplying nutrition to their babies. However, it was illegal for aliens to reproduce. So, Wikus immediately called the alien population control team and ordered the eggs to be destroyed. When they were burned, they exploded like popcorn. Meanwhile, elsewhere in District 9, an alien named Christopher was searching through a pile of garbage with his young son and another alien companion. Every alien had been assigned a name by MNU, with a name tag attached to their heads for easy identification. That's how Christopher could also be recognized. While searching, Christopher's son found a container-like object, which Christopher took back to his hut. Inside, he had built a small laboratory. He opened the container, which was filled with a chemical substance, and began filtering it. This process produced a black fluid, which he carefully stored in a special device. Christopher and his companion discussed how valuable the black fluid was to them, something they had managed to create after 20 years of hard work. They planned to use it to achieve something very important. But just then, Wikus and his team arrived at their hut. Seeing them, Christopher became alarmed. He quickly hid the device containing the black fluid inside the hut and sent his companion to open the door. Christopher's companion tried to block Wikus and his team, refusing to let them in. This made Wikus suspicious. He forced the alien outside at gunpoint and entered the hut to search it himself. Christopher, hiding inside, quietly watched them. Wikus was surprised to see a lab setup inside the hut. While inspecting it, he found a small device filled with black fluid inside a box. Curious, he picked it up and tried to understand what it was. But by mistake, he pressed a button on the device, causing the black fluid to spray all over his face. For a few moments, Wikus struggled to breathe and coughed violently. When he wiped his face, he began to feel a little better. He then confiscated the device and sent it to the MNU lab for examination. While continuing his search, he found a large number of alien weapons in Christopher's hut. Wikus came out and asked the aliens what they were doing with so many weapons. Panicking, Christopher's companion suddenly attacked Wikus's team. When Wikus tried to stop him, the alien grabbed his hand and threw him aside. But a security team patrolling in a helicopter shot the alien down immediately. During the scuffle, Wikus injured his hand badly, but he got it bandaged and returned to work. Meanwhile, Christopher, who had just lost his companion, ran to another hut where his son was playing with a holographic device. He told his son to stay outside and stand guard, then closed the door behind him. At that moment, Wikus and his team reached Christopher's hut. Wikus pulled Christopher out and looked inside, where he saw numerous computers. From that, Wikus realized Christopher was a technician. But what was he doing with so many computers? Before Wikus could question him, his condition suddenly worsened. He started vomiting uncontrollably, and something that looked like feces was coming out of his mouth. Feeling sick, Wikus decided to stop work for the day and headed back to MNU headquarters with his team. On his way back, Wikus stopped at a restaurant and ordered a large meal. He ate as if he hadn't eaten in days. Suddenly, a black fluid began to flow from his nose, the same kind that had sprayed from Christopher's device. Wikus had no idea what was happening to him. His health was getting worse with time, but he kept trying to ignore it and continue working. One day, while at the office, one of his fingernails suddenly came off. Wikus panicked when he saw his finger rotting. He quickly rushed to the bathroom and pulled out another nail, which also came off with very little force. Terrified, Wikus immediately went home, only to be surprised. His wife and parents had organized a birthday party for him. Wikus tried to act normal, pretending everything was fine. But when he leaned forward to cut the cake, a fountain of black fluid burst out of his mouth, and he collapsed unconscious. A while later, Wikus regained consciousness in a hospital. A doctor was removing the bandage from his injured hand, the one hurt during the alien encounter. When the bandage came off, everyone was horrified. In place of Wikus's human hand was now an alien claw. Seeing it, Wikus was terrified. The doctor immediately ran out and reported it to MNU. Within minutes, MNU soldiers stormed in, seized Wikus by force, and took him to a secret research facility where scientists were studying and dissecting aliens. MNU's main goal was to find a way for humans to operate alien weapons. Since those weapons only worked with alien DNA, the scientists were experimenting on aliens to understand their genetic makeup. Now they began experimenting on Wikus as well. They treated him like an animal brought in for testing. A scientist brutally inserted a thick needle into his alien hand, making Wikus scream in pain. This clearly proved that the alien claw had fused with his body. All this was happening under the orders of MNU's chief, who was also Wikus's father-in-law. The scientists kept torturing Wikus until they discovered that his DNA was mutating into alien DNA. Wikus was slowly transforming into one of them. They brought him to a large testing chamber to try out the alien weapons. Wikus refused, but they forced an alien gun into his hand. The moment he held it, the gun activated. Seeing this, the scientists became ecstatic. They immediately made Wikus test all kinds of alien weapons. At first, they told him to shoot at animals, but then they brought in a live alien as a target. Seeing the helpless alien, Wikus pleaded with the scientists. He begged them to let the alien go, promising to cooperate in every way, but they ignored him. Instead, they gave him an electric shock, forcing him to pull the trigger, killing the alien instantly. The alien's body was torn apart, and Wikus could only cry in helplessness. The MNU scientists were overjoyed. To them, Wikus was a priceless discovery. His body now contained a mix of both human and alien DNA, allowing humans to finally unlock alien weapons. However, they knew that once Wikus's transformation was complete, his DNA would become fully alien and lose its usefulness. So, they decided to dissect him and preserve his body parts. Wikus's father-in-law agreed to it, driven by greed. If humans could use alien bioweapons, he would profit by selling the technology worldwide. Wikus begged him to spare his life, but his father-in-law, blinded by money, approved his execution. Soon after, the scientists strapped Wikus to a stretcher and took him to the operating theater. They were about to cut open his chest while he was still alive. Wikus screamed and begged for mercy, but no one listened. In desperation, he broke free from the stretcher. He then held the chief scientist at knife point and escaped from MNU headquarters. But soon, MNU's entire security force was after him. Wikus managed to hide from them, but his transformation made him constantly hungry. He went into a restaurant and ordered food, but then saw a shocking news report on TV. His father-in-law had spread false rumors, claiming Wikus had contracted an infection from having an illicit relationship with a female alien, which was turning him into one. He even warned that anyone who touched Wikus could become infected too. The news showed fake photos of Wikus with a female alien. Horrified, everyone in the restaurant ran away. The restaurant owner even started shooting at Wikus to drive him out. Somehow, Wikus escaped with his life. Now, Wikus was no longer safe, not even among ordinary people. With nowhere else to go, he had only one option left: District 9. He stole a man's phone, ran off, and climbed over the fence to enter the alien settlement. His hunger had become unbearable. He was forced to buy cat food from the Nigerian mafia, just like the aliens did. But while eating, 2 of his teeth suddenly fell out. Deeply disheartened, he called his wife and told her that his father had orchestrated the whole thing. He insisted that he hadn't mated with any aliens. Although Wikus's wife felt sorry for him, she believed her father more than Wikus and hung up. Wikus was now so distraught that he tried to cut off his alien claw with an axe. However, after cutting one of his fingers, he screamed in pain and didn't dare try again. Meanwhile, he saw MNU security forces approaching District 9 in helicopters searching for him. Wikus immediately ran away and entered one of the aliens' huts. Coincidentally, that hut belonged to Christopher. At that time, Christopher was worried about losing his black fluid. Wikus begged Christopher to let him hide, but Christopher refused. Then Christopher noticed Wikus's alien hand and realized where his black fluid had gone. Suddenly, overcome with pain, Wikus fainted. A short while later, when Wikus opened his eyes, he found himself inside a chamber. He hadn't yet fully recovered when Christopher arrived and asked him where the device containing the black fluid was. Christopher explained that the black fluid was the reason Wikus was transforming into an alien. Hearing this, Wikus was shocked. He said that he had sent the black fluid to the MNU lab. Christopher was deeply disappointed. Meanwhile, Wikus noticed that the place he was in was hidden beneath a hut. It was the alien ship's command module, the control center of their ship. Christopher's child was also there. He told Wikus that the black fluid was their ship's fuel. It powered the command module, which restarted the ship. Christopher wanted to refuel the ship and return to his planet with his companions. Hearing this, Wikus was thrilled. He said, "I knew there must be some intelligent aliens among you. I'm glad to hear you want to leave. What's wrong now? You could just refuel and get out of here." But Christopher said, "That's not possible now. It took me 20 years to collect that small amount of fuel, so it's impossible to make more. But if I had that fuel, I could fix you." Hearing this, Wikus was overjoyed and said, "What did you say? You can turn me back into a human?" "How?" Christopher replied, "There's a machine on my mothership that can turn you back into a human, but that's not possible without the fuel. Unless I put fuel into this command module and start it up, the machine won't work until it connects to the mothership. So, if we want to return to our planet and you want to become human again, we must get that fuel at any cost, even if it means going to the MNU lab." However, for Wikus, going back to MNU was like inviting his own death. He was lost in thought. His body was now decaying, and just like a butterfly emerging from a cocoon, his alien form was beginning to emerge from his human body. Driven by his desire to become human again, Wikus decided to steal the fuel from MNU. But for this mission, he needed weapons, and there was only one place he could get them: Obasanjo's base. Wikus immediately went there, not realizing what a grave mistake he was making. By that time, newspapers had already published reports about him, and the rumor had reached Obasanjo that Wikus was turning into an alien because of his relationship with one. Obasanjo's witch doctor told him that by eating Wikus's alien hand he could gain alien powers. So, Obasanjo ordered his men to cut off Wikus's hand. Terrified, Wikus begged for mercy, but the brutes attacked and injured him. They then approached with a dagger. At that moment, Wikus managed to grab one of the alien guns. Using it, he tore Obasanjo's men to pieces, collected several weapons, and escaped. Afterward, Wikus and Christopher went to MNU headquarters to steal the fuel. After causing an explosion outside, they both stormed into the lab, tearing the security forces to pieces, and began searching for the fuel-filled device. Finally, they found the fuel, but then Christopher saw the torn bodies of his comrades. He was completely shocked. Wikus, giving him cover, kept urging him to run quickly, but Christopher stood there like a statue, heartbroken. Meanwhile, the security force colonel and his team were continuously attacking them. Thankfully, Wikus had an alien gun, each shot of which automatically locked onto enemies, turning them into mincemeat. After much persuasion from Wikus, Christopher regained his composure. They escaped from the MNU headquarters and reached District 9. But now, the colonel and his team were desperately chasing Wikus. They had strict orders to capture him alive. Meanwhile, Wikus and Christopher arrived at the hut beneath which the command module was located. They had to hurry. They needed to launch the command module and reach the mothership as soon as possible. Christopher sent his son down to take charge of the command module and began setting up a few things on the computer. Meanwhile, Wikus asked, "Now that we can reach the mothership, how long will it take you to fix me once we get there?" Christopher replied, 3 years. Hearing this, Wikus felt the ground slip from under his feet. He asked, "But why will it take you so long?" Christopher replied, "Because first, I have to save all my comrades. Otherwise, you humans will sacrifice them in the name of experiments. I have to go to my planet first and bring back help. It will take me 3 years to return. I promise, I'll come back and turn you into a human again." Hearing this, Wikus's blood boiled. Furious, he shot Christopher unconscious with his gun, took the fuel, and returned to the command module. There, he lied to Christopher's son, saying, "Your father is fine." He then placed the fuel back into its slot, and the command module started up. Meanwhile, the colonel, still searching for Wikus, arrived at Christopher's hut. He threatened Christopher and asked where Wikus was. Christopher pointed downward toward the command module. The colonel tried to open it but couldn't. He ordered Christopher to open it, but Christopher refused under any circumstances because his son was inside. Meanwhile, Wikus sat in the pilot's seat, though he didn't know how to operate the command module. He placed his hands into 2 fluid-filled containers, which were the controls of the ship. Using them, Wikus began to fly the command module. Seeing the command module rise, both Christopher and the colonel backed away. Wikus started flying it toward the mothership, but then the colonel's team fired a rocket at it. The explosion caused the command module to lose control and crash to the ground. Unfortunately, Wikus was badly injured in the crash. The colonel finally caught up with them, arrested Wikus and Christopher, and began taking them back to the MNU lab. Christopher grew worried about his son, who was still hiding in the command module. Everything seemed lost. But suddenly the colonel's team was attacked. A truck rammed into their vehicle, overturning it. The attackers were Obasanjo's men, sent by Obasanjo himself, who was desperate to capture Wikus so he could eat his flesh. They took Wikus from right under the colonel's nose and brought him back to Obasanjo's base. This time, Obasanjo wasn't going to delay cutting off Wikus's hand and eating it. The witch doctor began performing rituals on Wikus before the amputation. One of the men pulled out a dagger to cut Wikus's hand while 3 or 4 others held him tightly. Just as they were about to cut his hand, a powerful blast struck them, crushing them like tomatoes. The attack came from an alien robot standing behind them, controlled remotely by Christopher's son from the command module. He used the robot to destroy Obasanjo and all his men. He then opened the pilot section of the robot and rescued Wikus. After that, Christopher's son activated the mothership and brought it directly above the command module. The alien ship moved for the first time in 20 years, shocking everyone in the city. Meanwhile, the colonel fired tear gas shells to drive Wikus out of the hut. Wikus had no other option but to enter the alien robot, which instantly connected to his brain. Now Wikus could control the robot just by his thoughts. Wikus ran for his life, but then he saw the colonel's men trying to kill Christopher. He couldn't bear to leave Christopher to die, so he turned back and rescued him from the colonel's clutches, leading him toward the command module. During this time, the colonel and his men kept firing at Wikus, gradually weakening the robotic suit. Still, risking his life, Wikus managed to get Christopher safely to the command module. Christopher asked Wikus to come with him, but Wikus refused. He knew that without his protection, Christopher and his son would never make it to the mothership. Christopher bid him farewell like a brother and promised, "I'll return in 3 years and make you human again." With that promise, Christopher boarded the command module. By then, his son had brought the mothership directly above them. The mothership automatically pulled the command module inside. Meanwhile, Wikus destroyed all of the colonel's remaining forces, but he himself was severely injured. His robot suit also shut down completely, forcing him to step out. Half human, half alien, Wikus now stood face to face with the colonel. All of the colonel's men were dead, and he no longer wanted to capture Wikus alive. Instead, he aimed his gun, ready to kill him. Just as he was about to pull the trigger, a group of hungry aliens arrived. They attacked the colonel, tearing off his arms, legs, and head in an instant, and began feasting on him. The danger to Wikus was finally over. Meanwhile, Christopher boarded the mothership and took off for his planet, leaving behind his 2 million stranded companions who were still helpless on Earth. The people of Johannesburg felt relieved as the alien ship disappeared into the sky. Later, Wikus's story became famous all over the world, but no one ever saw him again. Everyone believed he had died. But in reality, Wikus had completely transformed into an alien, and District 9 had become his home. Though this new life felt worse than hell, Wikus continued to live in hope. Hope that Christopher would return one day and keep his promise. He waited for the day when Christopher would come back and restore his humanity once again. And with that, the film ends. Friends, if you liked this video and got lost in the story while watching, please subscribe to support us, so we can keep bringing you more videos like this. Thanks for watching.